Hi, we're going to go ahead and get started for our May 1st statewide school mental health community practice webinar. Thank you for everyone that's joining us, and we're delighted to have Luke, Dee, Carol, and Sheila from Independent School in the Billings area presenting today on integrated school mental health in their school building. And for those of you that may not be aware, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and so there's some great tools out there. If you would like, I'd be happy. They were sent out on the email the other day with our reminder. So perhaps some of you have ideas about how to generate this in your school and school district, and something maybe we could work on for 2015. With that, I'd like to thank the IDA partnership and Mariola for your time and work with us as always. And presenters, if you want to go ahead and take it away, and thank you all again.
Sure. Well, my name is Lucas Stevens. I'll be presenting along with the rest of our team here. We have Deb Deese, the behavior specialist I work alongside with through the Yellowstone Boys and Girls Ranch. Carol Hildebrand is the school counselor at Independent Elementary. And Sheila Chenard is the principal here as well. The way that we've decided to format this presentation is we want it to be more of an open conversation. So at a number of different times throughout, you'll hear different voices, which is why we included this slide to introduce her. So Deb Deese is on the right, Carol is on the left, Sheila's in the middle, and I'm, of course, in the back. So why the tree? Throughout the presentation today, you're going to see this tree as a symbol of the different progression through as the school has progressed in developing over the course of time. It has been something to note with our presentation today. The presentation was developed based, and I can't even speak right now, so if somebody wants to jump in, geez, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Chronological order.
Chronological order is the word that I'm looking for. So as we progress through this presentation, it's important to note that the school's development and implementation from everything from the Qualia 8 to MBI to YBGR to the My Voice being presented in which they had adapted it and implemented it over the course of the year of establishment. So we start with the Qualia 8 Institute sharing a poster of the 8 conditions. As it says here, as the lessons progress through the years, teachers and students begin to use the reference to the 8 conditions as the tree, and we'll have some pictures to follow up with you guys.
Would you like to add anything?
Well, we started all of this kind of backwards from the norm that schools progress. Our school began with Qualia and the 8 conditions, and then we followed it with the My Voice. We were trying to get information from the students. Then, because we weren't doing as well as we wanted to do, reaching all students, we added the YBGR piece, and then following that we added the MBI, and it's almost the exact reversal of what is standardly done in Montana. So we've been doing the tree for 7 years. We've been doing the My Voice survey for 4. We're in our 2nd year with the YBGR, and we're in our 1st year with MBI.
So with this slide, we wanted to make note because part of our directive in presenting to you today is to highlight the collaborative efforts of both the mental health agency partnering with a school. And one thing to note is that at the beginning of each year, and Ms. Chenard will speak directly to this, they have years of service that are handed out to each staff member in the school, and both myself as a therapist and deputy this year's service pin. I wanted to include that slide.
This slide came from the presentation that we did at the beginning of the school year. And as principal, I followed the tradition that had already been in place of recognizing years of service as well as promoting a theme for the year. And in setting this up, I looked for a pin that was relevant to what our theme was and what we were going to be picking off on and focusing on for the year. And then, of course, we always have included every member of independent school staff, from the janitorial staff to all of our certified, classified people, the district clerk. Everybody is invited and recognized as a member of our team. This year we chose the Great Redwood. Again, it reminds us that strength is in our support of each other, and that we ultimately need to be a team and support each and every one. And everybody in amongst this school needs to feel the power to work with each other and solve the problems that we have, or put power behind the positive things that we want to for the year. So even the secretary should feel empowered to stop students in the hallway and talk about expectations. The district clerk or anybody along the way should feel empowered as part of our team to step up and state expectations, or, you know, or congratulate by positive feedback for what we've done.
The first quality on 8 conditions, belonging, is what Sheila's kind of referencing. This is the counselor again. And belonging means that we all are part of the whole team, and whether it's the students or any member of the staff, including, even, by the way, the adult community that comes in and supports us, family members. So this is a team, and belonging is one of the biggest themes in our building.
What's really important to note is that this was given out in, what was it, August? The end of August, these pins were given out, and this theme, for some odd reason, which is why we titled our program The Stars Aligned, kept popping up throughout all the work that we were doing, this theme of trees, through the Qualia 8, through what we were doing. So it was perfect, a perfect pick for this year. So this next, we want to take some time and just kind of highlight the demographics of Independent Elementary School and what's going on here that's kind of making things work. So.
Okay. Beth. Now, Independent School is a county school. We're located just outside of Billings Public Schools. We are a K-6 school. We're actually a K-8 school district. We send our 7th and 8th graders to Billings. As a K-6 school, we're around 298 students. We keep fluctuating right in there. We have had a staff that's pretty heavily veteran staff. When people come and stay, they seem to stay quite a while. We have teachers that have been here as long as 30 years, and those who have been new this past year. So our enrollment it's pretty steady in this area. Our staff members are steady. As far as our student population and enrollment, we have a pretty much heterogeneous group. You know, we have small, low income, smaller, higher income, mostly medium income students, and family structures. That kind of makes our population base. The building itself has grown over the years from a few classrooms. Our last construction phase finished approximately 4 years ago. At this time, we have 2 classrooms for each grade level, K-6. We do run a special ed preschool a couple of afternoons a week, and we have a resource room. We have a library and a computer lab. Additional rooms in our building are for title, music, the extended day, which is a before school and after school parent pay program. The YBGR has a space, and the nurse and teacher workspace is another room. Staff lounge and staff supply and meeting rooms are available with this last building phase. We also have a cafeteria, concession stand, and a new gymnasium. And we have relocated our offices towards the front of the building where the principal and secretary are. District clerk's office is located at another doorway, and then we have our counselor, speech therapist, and superintendent's office as well. So that's kind of the physical layout of the building, but more important to our physical space is the culture that we've created and we've worked diligently to create within this building. It's the significant factor that we have going. As I said before, the staff is very low turnover rate. We do, have a few for retirements and things like that, but it's a pretty stable staff. Most of us have worked together for years and have basically bought into the 8 conditions and the My Voice survey and the things that we've been doing and see value in it. And we understand and are working to make sure that everything we do is student-centered, that everybody works together as a team, has basically an open platform to speak up. We hope staff meetings are one that anybody and everybody feels free to make comments in. We're focused on our students, and we work really hard to make sure that we work as that team so everybody can bring something to the table, because as one person, it's really daunting to think that, as a principal, I would have to control everything when I have so many talented people on staff that pulling together and working with strengths, we can do so much more.
And really, I want to say that it's because of that culture that as an outside agency coming into the school, I felt that we were so readily accepted. It had already been being cultivated by the culture prior to us being here. And so coming on board, I had been forewarned in the past, be careful going into a new school, that we were a brand new program to the school. It could be difficult. And really, I had no difficulties. I didn't feel like either Deb or I had difficulties connecting with the staff. We were made to feel as if we weren't YBGR anymore. We had become Skyhawks. We had become independent staff. And really, it's because of that culture. They embraced the outside agency and were welcoming in new ideas. It really was phenomenal.
I think the truth be known to that is we had surfaced, or some students had surfaced that we'd never experienced before, and it was almost as if we had been searching for resources and searching for options as we felt, our skills were weakened in the mental health area and how to help students. And, so we were really open to what YBGR could bring to the table and anyone else in any other programs. So you'll hear us talk about some curriculum programs that we have integrated as well. But basically it was, what's out there, what can help us? Because we almost started to feel like, we're swimming backwards. We've been here so long, we've been doing so well, and now we're getting some real challenging kids. And what do? Where are our resources? And that's part of this journey that we started on, was in search of, we know we want to become a better place. How do we do that? What resources are out there? So when YBGR came, a lot of us went, oh, wow, okay, somebody else who can help and who can understand or bring more knowledge to the table and has a set of skills that, as a principal, I wasn't trained in.
So this next slide is just an example of one of the visuals that, again, of the tree that can be found across the school. This is actually in the front entryway of the school, and it was created as an example of the collaborative efforts between YBGR and the school by one of the students that we service within the program, and the behavior specialists had gone together over the course of a couple of weeks. Yep. Am I right, Deb?
Yep.
Yeah.
It was a collaborative effort to work with one of the youth in our program, and it was a cool opportunity to spend time with him and also have a positive impact.
So we wanted to make sure that we highlighted that. So our next step, and as you can see, our tree is growing. We have independent in the trunk, and now we have the 8 conditions down below, where the implementation of the 8 conditions. I'll turn that over to Carol.
The 8 conditions is really the whole root system of everything that's kind of emerged since we began the Qualia journey in 2007. I had the opportunity, Bill Laurent, who at that time was the principal superintendent, had seen of the Qualia program that was endorsed by NAESP, and he liked the words that were being used on the Qualia, and he said, gosh, Carol, I think this would be something that would be really a good program for our school. I went up to Helena in the summer of 2007 and spent some days with Russell Qualia and was trained, and then I've since seen him multiple times whenever he's in the Billings area. I can have further training. But the 8 conditions, Russell at first said, this is not a program that you're just going to give to people and you're going to be done with it in 3 months or 12 months. This is something that to integrate into your culture is going to take at least 5 years. And we are in our 7th year of the program. Our present 6th grade group of students proudly says, Mrs. H, that's my little name, Mrs. H, we've been learning about the tree since we were in kindergarten. And we're starting to see the fruits of all of our labor because it is the tree, but the children now know belonging, heroes, sense of accomplishment, fun and excitement, curiosity and creativity, spirit of adventure. And now we're at the final part where the students are at the top of the tree with leadership and responsibility and confidence to take action. And they are starting to internalize what happens, that each year it's all about belonging. And then the heroes. And it's just become integrated with almost everything in our school. The words are not unfamiliar to anyone.
No, absolutely not.
Maslow's hierarchy is an interesting symbol because what we found, the tree and the 8 conditions really work on the esteem level. And notice that the underneath part of that, the love and belonging, safety and physical or physiological levels, those were the areas that we were not targeting. Those are our Tier 2 and Tier 3 children, and we were just missing. I'm a .6 counselor, so I'm only here part-time. I didn't have the training to deal with the Tier 2 and 3 children. None of the teachers had the training. Our principal didn't have the training. So we were at a level of frustration because we are student need driven and we just were not meeting the student needs.
Which is where YBGR came in and was implemented in last year to start to meet some of those needs of the clients. And really, we were just talking earlier that those bottom 3 on the Maslow's hierarchy really are the crux of a lot of the mental health issues that we're seeing with a lot of our kids. And in fact, the mental health issues that we have are escalated when, of course, these bottom layer of the Maslow hierarchies are not met. So it was a perfect partnership, I think, with what the school is already doing with the upper level of the hierarchy, and then for us to come along with the bottom.
I go in as the school counselor to each one of the classrooms. So we have 14 classrooms, and I visit each classroom 8 times. And each time I go in, we talk about one of the conditions. And I have kind of evolved into them creating now works of art that express what the condition is all about. At first, it was much more didactic, and now it's much more internalized, and then they're expressing it.
So these are some examples of some of the work that the kids had done within the hallway of the school, which is displayed. I believe it's currently still up around.
And this is fun. Sometimes a whole class, rather than do individual displays, will create a collage. This happened to come out of one of our 3rd grade classrooms. And the students participated in the planning and organization of it. And this classroom teacher kept saying, you know, it's taken us a long time, but everyone was involved with it.
Mm-hmm.
These are some of the materials. The Hershey Corporation actually provided the funding for all of the curricular materials that came out of the Qualia project, and I continue to use them. The poster with the trees, and then you'll see the Hershey underneath there, and then Qualia on one side and NAESSP on the other side. But these materials and the tree hangs in every single classroom as well as hallways throughout the building. The curricular materials are invaluable.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really important to note, too, that the school had been implementing this they've been implementing it for the past 7 years prior to any implementation of an MBI of a mental health agency coming in to partner and assist. This type of material was being utilized and emphasized within, like Carol said, the classrooms, the hallways, you name it, there's a tree. This is a better close-up of what the tree looks like which again goes along with our theme that has really captivated the school this year.
The students at the school have now grown to be able to say, the tree represents our school. The tree is independent. And at the beginning of each school day, at the beginning of each school year, we want children to eagerly run to the tree and get on the tree. And then we want to see all sorts of different activities. There's a lot of helping going on in the tree. And then eventually, as we progress up the tree, you'll notice that the children are flying, and you've got the dream, reach, and succeed with the rainbow. And what we talk about, I was just in a first grade classroom yesterday, and they'll say, Mrs. Hildebrand, that means that we're first graders and we're almost done with first grade and we're ready to go off into second grade. And we've got the confidence to take action to do that.
So this is another example of a collaborative bulletin board, but it started originally as a student leadership project here at the school, which is another amazing piece of Independent, that they even have a leadership team that is a compilation of what is, I forget the age range for that.
Third through sixth.
Third through sixth. So what happened that we put together, YBGR then stepped in after the leadership group had been doing this for years, and it helped put together, again, another project that Deb Deese worked on with another student.
Yeah, it was another cool opportunity for community service, and it's hard to tell from the picture, but all of the little dots that you see kind of surrounding the tree and it are actually photographs, school pictures of all of the students. Every single student here at Independent is featured on that bulletin board, and then within the tree are also the 8 conditions listed. So it was a nice way for us to group with the 8 conditions again.
So this is a photograph of our Positive Powers Assembly, and I have to say, as an outside agency, somebody representing an outside agency coming to the school, this is something that when I first experienced this, I was like, this place is amazing. And this is a weekly event. I'll let Ms. Chenard and Carol even speak more directly to this, that had been going on for however many years.
Yeah, our Positive Power Assemblies take place on Friday mornings. They've been going on for at least 20 years. And each year we might change the theme or might change the certificate, but basically the idea is one student from each classroom is recognized for something that they did. Some years we can choose it as a heroes thing. We've used belonging, we've used leadership.
Sense of accomplishment.
Sense of accomplishment. The last couple of years we've focused on all of the 8 conditions and making it state that you make a difference is the title of our certificate. And so somewhere towards the end of the school week, Wednesday or Thursday, teachers will submit the name of a student and the reason that they make a difference. What positive thing have they done in this week or over a period of time that we can recognize them for? And then on Friday mornings, we all meet down in the gymnasium, and it's an opportunity where myself as a principal gets to talk to the whole student body at one time. So we've talked about words, our theme words that we're working with, respect, cooperation, and pride, and that ties into the MBI in our matrix that will come up soon, as well as opportunities to reinforce the 8 conditions and make those connections for the kids and the staff that are present at this assembly every Friday morning. And at the end, the kids get to do a cheer. Sometimes we have kids who'll be brave enough who, ask, can, I run the wave? So they'll run up and down, or we'll have presentations. We had a 5th grade classroom that made a student video with the idea of belonging as their theme, and we were going to show it today, but with technical difficulties it will not show up. But the idea was that was a place that during this assembly on Friday mornings we were able to present that and let the whole staff and student body see this video that one 5th grade class made. As a Team Skyhawk, it's our leadership group this year, and we put a little twist on it. In the past, we've done school leadership programs, taking those top leaders, those positive leaders, and what we have done now, or this year, what we tried is to find the leaders in the school and in each classroom that are those positive leaders, but also who who are those kids that are the negative leaders that maybe with some help and some skills and some relationships can turn it around to be a very strong positive leader, because they're already a strong negative leader, and we all know those kids, but it's working with them to twist that. And so part of our Team Skyhawk this year has also been to incorporate them into our Friday morning assemblies. They've created videos. They did skits and were recorded into videos for the idea of respect. And we will show those to the student body on Friday mornings. They've come up with ideas that they want as cheers and other things that they want to do.
They reviewed the My Voice surveys and targeted 2 directions that they wanted us to take. One of them was that students weren't listening to one another, and another one was that students weren't being as kind to one another as they wanted. So those kids actually looked at the data in focus group format and selected a direction for the school year.
I wanted to add, too, that the positive power assemblies are very powerful. In looking through the yearbook that was just distributed to our student body and our staff, there were several students that were quoted as saying their favorite part of this school year was receiving positive power, so it really enhances that sense of belonging, too.
And between the beginning of the year and the end of the year, every student will be recognized. And we also take an opportunity towards the end of the year to recognize teachers or instructional aides or anybody along the way that has done something that we want to promote and to share and celebrate. We'll bring up. We've had teachers who have won this year the Golden Apple Award here in Billings. So we highlighted that person during a positive power assembly. We've had other teachers who've won awards for promoting of fly fishing, right? Okay. And so we've recognized them. And that's often a surprise to the teacher who's won the award, because they just, take that award, thank you, and go back into their room. And when we find out about those, we really work to celebrate what we're doing all over and what the teachers are doing and what the kids are doing. It gives us that opportunity to do that on those Friday mornings. So sometimes they're quite a crazy event, and the kids leave, very full of energy, but they're always worth it. The first thing that happened this year as a first-year principal was I had students coming up to me the very first day of school. When do we start positive power? When do we start positive power? And, that just told me they expect it, they need it, and we will continue it for as long as we possibly can.
This is the counselor once again, and I have 2 comments. One is, this is Sheila's first year as a principal, and it's absolutely been a delight that she and I normally set up for positive power, and during that time we have informal conversations, and it might be something that I'm doing, promoting in the classroom, and then she promotes it to the entire school, so there's a real strong thread there. The other thing that I wanted you to make note of is that there are different icons representing the 8 conditions. The ones on the tree are actually the NAESSP icons, and then the ones that you see on the certificate are the ones that have come out of the qualia, and they were incorporated in the whole program like the second year that I was teaching it.
So this is an example of, after following a positive power assembly, the majority of teachers, what happens, I find this incredible as a therapist, the students that have received the positive power award are held back in the gym. They have their photo taken as a group. All the while, the rest of the classes are exiting the gym, and they're making their way back to the classroom where they wait. And they fill out one of these Super Skyhawks or something that is put together for the student who received it, and it's very specific to the student. It's very it's just a very unique piece of the positive powers. And as the student makes their way back to the class, the entire class erupts in celebration.
Hip hip hooray!
And hip hip hooray! It's incredible. And again, first. Coming in as an outside agency, not knowing what to expect from a school, I saw this happening, and this is just normal. This is normal. This is the way the culture is at Independent Elementary. It was phenomenal to see what it does for the student body, what it does for the staff. I have a client in particular who had gotten the Positive Power Award. He held that book that they had made for them in the class for probably 3 days. He clutched it. That was his lifeline, and would flip through that. and read it and show both Deb and I what it is that others had written about him. So it's a very, very powerful tool that, again, is integrated into the classrooms now. So this slide, unfortunately, was going to be the slide we were going to show you about belonging, the video we had. Unfortunately, we just couldn't get it to work. So next, we're going to transition into the My Voice surveys. So
actually, formally, in 2010-11, we began the My Voice surveys. Prior to that, we'd done kind of like a paper pencil survey. And when we first started getting the data, we weren't quite sure what we were going to be doing with it. Sheila and I had an opportunity to go to a focus group training with Dr. Mickey Corzo from the Qualia Institute. And following that training on focus group formation, we started, and it has made a difference because we've got the students identifying what they find is significantly a concern at our school, and then we set the directions for school improvement changes based on the students who've looked through those.
And then we came along as YBGR. So this slide just kind of gives a background into where the school was at leading up to the integration of our program into the school setting. There had been the use of multiple different social skills curriculum, is that correct? Realization that at the end of 2011-2012 that, like Ms. Chenard had mentioned earlier, there were needs going on within the classroom that teachers, school counselors, the special ed department could not necessarily meet. They were exceeding their needs. So needing and seeking out that outside support. So by December of 2012, it was agreed and a program therapist was hired, which was myself. The designation of our space, we were given a classroom as a YBGR team to help facilitate our program and participate in what we're doing. And then by February, Deb Deese was hired as the behavior specialist. Following that timeline, students were screened immediately. I probably had, I would say, at least 5 paper referrals before I had even started. In fact, I had been working at a different school, and somehow a teacher from Independent had obtained my email address before I had officially started at Independent Elementary, and I had received multiple different emails about supplies that she had for me, you know, how excited she was for me to start, and I had never even physically met her, I believe. So we hit the ground running in January of 2013. Like it says on the slide, by the end of June, we were at full capacity in terms of a caseload. We were, you know, then immediately diving into our summer program and starting what we were doing for the summer.
Part of what was amazing is that I've mentioned that it's like the pump was primed. Sheila and I got an opportunity to visit the other programs, and then YBGR came and presented to the board. And I can remember one of the board members saying, why would we not want to have YBGR on board? And it was a unanimous decision to go ahead with them. Kim Chenard at the time said, well, it's going to take us 1.5 years. You'll have to contract 1.5 years because it's probably going to take us 6 months to even get the ball rolling. And you can see from what happened, the pump really was primed because we didn't need to get the ball rolling. It was already rolling when Luke came on board.
I think, speaking of that, one thing that was really neat to me to see was before I had even arrived, or before YBGR had even arrived, the school had sent out a newsletter to the entire parent body. And in that, it highlighted what was happening at the school in terms of YBGR coming in and providing and offering the service. So because of that, I not only had paper referrals, but we had parents knocking on our door asking to be screened and admitted before I had even really filled out a referral process. So the school, like Carol said, not only were the staff primed, the parent body, the culture at Independent was primed for the service to come in. I have some images here I wanted to show. This is our Community Bucks program, and this is where when I saw what Carol as a school counselor was implementing with the Qualia 8, Deb Deese and I got together and said, this is pretty amazing stuff. How can we support this? Hold on just a second. It looks like we're having a network connection issue. Oh. Can you guys still hear us? I don't even know.
Yes.
Okay. So our community box, I apologize, our computer went on the fritz for a second. We decided that in order to, gracious uncertainty, yes, to reinforce already what was in place. The school has been using the Qualia 8 for 7 years. They're doing the Positive Powers Assemblies. How can we enhance this therapeutically as a mental health agency? We started a token economy. And on the community box that Deb had designed, we list each of the 8 conditions. And then a spot for the name. And what we told the students was that we are going to be out and about in the school, in the cafeteria, in the classrooms. And when we see you demonstrating one of these 8 conditions, we're going to highlight it. And they, in turn, get to store their community bucks in our office and spend them at our community store. So we're really just, again, partnering. I wanted to partner with the school and keep this universal language that had already been established so that we didn't come in with something new and different and try to overwhelm the kids. We were exposing them to the exact same verbatim, just within a different context.
And by the way, it's not just Luke and Deb that are observant. I have, in many cases, come to them and said something about one of their clients is doing something, and then they'll say, gosh, thank you. Compliment third hand, sometimes the best, and then the student is rewarded with community box.
Right. That happens. Carol mentioned that. Teachers, you name it, there are different community members within the school that are coming up and saying, we saw this. And then Deb and I, in turn, respond with a community buck.
And our clients responded really well to it, and so we wanted to keep that continuing through our summer program as well, too. So we developed a self-evaluation report card that each of our clients fills out at the end of, for example, an outing into the community. And again, it's based on the 8 conditions, and so they can evaluate themselves and they discuss it with the program therapist and have an opportunity to earn community bucks from demonstrating positive behaviors on those events too. So.
Yep, out in the community. That's a great piece. So following the summer, I decided that seeing what Carol was doing in the classrooms, I thought, what an incredible way of partnering again with the school and enhancing using the 8 conditions during group therapy. So in the fall of this last year, while Carol was beginning her introduction and classroom lessons on the 8 conditions, I began to dive into the 8 conditions in group therapy. And so I've listed a couple of examples for you in regards to how I implemented that, really driving home the fact that we're here at the school, we're creating an environment of these 8 conditions, but also how, as a student, are you creating this environment or able to experience these 8 conditions within the context of your home, within the context of your community. So the following slides are just a few examples of some of the work that the kids did during those group therapies. This was an example of what Deb Deese did.
Yeah, this is, I facilitate lunch groups for our clients, and they're based off of the Virtues Project with YBGR, but also I collaborate with the program therapist so that we can overlap and kind of bring the same theme to light each month. And so this is one that we worked on that was based on responsibility, but it just helps to enhance those group therapy topics that the therapist is covering with our youth as well.
Ties in the tree again. So as you'll see, and as you've seen, we've worked really hard to keep that theme going, and they have the basis of the meaning. We just get to stretch that meaning a little more, and now this one, it's responsibility, or responsibility.
The responsibility. Most recently, we had an opportunity. We were asked by Sheila Chenard to come in and do a staff presentation in regards to de-escalation techniques that teachers, anybody within the school, could really be implementing. So we did. Both Deb and I came in and presented on what, as an agency, the direction we're going in and just some tools for the classroom teachers to use. But also, we presented a lot on the MANT system too, and those verbal de-escalation techniques. And the teachers greatly appreciated, from what I heard, what we had to say and offer. Again, very well received.
I was sitting with Sheila, and one of the staff members came up and said, I'll tell you what, if this was the appetizer, I want to have the whole course. So Sheila has kind of talked about using the YBGR team with a more in-depth look at de-escalation techniques in the fall.
Well, what we found were, teachers, when the YBGR staff or others who were trained who would work with kiddos to de-escalate them and to redirect their energy something else, get them distracted, some teachers or instructional aides were frustrated that maybe the child was getting their way. And it started to have a negative connotation there when, we looked at that as a celebration. They didn't go farther and launch into something that, it could have happened. And especially with those kids that, ride that fine line of keeping it in control for school. And I found it to be very, very advantageous to us to teach to the whole staff, and we included our instructional aides and we included our school secretary so that they can see there's a purpose and a value when we work with kids to redirect them and to change their focus. And it may look like as we're walking around the playground with a kiddo to get them to calm down that, yep, they didn't have to do their math, that's right, they got their way. But we needed to show the teachers that they weren't losing when that happened. We were actually winning because we kept the kiddo in school. We were able to redirect the energy and get them back in school and focus on school. And so it was a lack of education in those areas, again referencing our lack of skills as elementary teachers to take care of some of that. Without extra training, we didn't have that. And so we're really looking at making sure our staff understands the skills that they need and things that they can do to help them work with the kids that are in their classrooms. Because unfortunately, we still have kiddos that aren't YBGR kids that need those skills and need that help. And so, the next step is educating our staff so that they can take over some of that role. And I just found it to be a very strong idea to keep presenting this information to our entire staff so that everybody could support each other and know what's happening. One thing I want to just go back and talk a little bit about YBGR and coming into independent. And, I've talked to different people around the state about, CSCT teams coming into their buildings and how are they received. And sometimes at the beginning I couldn't understand the idea of, what do you mean they're not just fully engulfed into the, school and into the staff. I just, I didn't have a concept of that until we started visiting, and how some teachers feel threatened, if there's somebody else that hangs out in the classroom and or somebody else wants to talk to them about a child or, something like that. And I have to say from the beginning, and maybe it goes back to what Carol said about we primed the teachers as well. They saw the need, and we went looking for the resources. And so when we brought Luke and Deb on board as our YBGR CSCT team, teachers were willing to let them in the classroom, and they didn't take it as a threatened, atmosphere. It was, what can you teach me to do with these students? How can you be? I'd love it if you would stay for this. Or, I know this kid has a hard time when we transition or when we do something. I'd love to invite you back when we do, some significant transitions. Or, gee, we're going on a field trip. Could you arrange to come with us? And build that. And that's one thing that I can look back over the time that we've been here and been together this last year and a couple of months and say that, everybody took the idea of how can everybody bring something to the table. And it wasn't a threatening environment to even have them on board. For me, I took them in and what can you teach me? And Carol's done the same. And we've been able to share things with them. You know, out of the 26 years and 30-some years that Carol and I have in education, we've been able to share with our team some skills. And we have a fabulous special ed teacher here who I know has taught us all things, including the team, of different skills and techniques and ideas. And, you know, and that's just something that was very significant about that as a staff we were open to learn from one another and really get value from that time.
Yeah, I want to just compliment that and state that it's interesting that Sheila had gone there, because this morning I'm driving to work thinking about what is it, because I quite often ask myself, what is it specifically is working, and there's so many answers to that question, but one of the things that jumped at me was this idea that I, as a therapist, first-year therapist, am almost in this perpetual state of internship, because I'm learning every single day. I'm learning from what has already been established here at Independent that is going well. I'm learning from the teachers and being welcomed in by them. And by that, me having that mindset, I think it's really helped, first of all, the partnership and enhancing the rapport with the school. But second of all, I think it's made me better at what I get to do with the clients and with the parents of the clients, and better as a staff member here at Independent and YBGR. I do want to take some time and just highlight the theoretical base behind a lot of the work that is done through the Yellowstone Boys and Girls Ranch, specifically in our program. You know, for the older kids, obviously using a lot of CBT. The younger kids, in particular, were using a lot of DBT techniques and use for different techniques for attachment-based disorders. A lot of what we do, especially with our younger, or I would say our first through third, even a lot of our sixth graders too, I should say, are patterned repetitive activities that help teach a kid how to self-regulate and self-soothe, because they've missed out on a lot of those base kind of skills, early on skills that are taught and used. What I found, of course, too, I come from a very existentialist ideation and positive psychology, and the 8 conditions lined up perfectly with those things. It was almost like I had just found a bowl of candy. It was amazing to see that what the school was doing lined up perfectly with the theoretical base behind what the program I had decided the program would go in. This is an example of the bucket filling, and this is a concept that Carol had been promoting within the classrooms way prior to our establishment as YBGR, and some of the theorists behind the idea of bucket filling and strength psychology, positive psychology. These are just some additional readings that were shared with me that have influenced and have an influence on the direction of our program and the theoretical base of our program. So at this time, we have a parent testimony video that we'd like to share with you. This video, I have to say, you're going to listen to it, at least I did when I rewatched it, and I thought to myself, these parents are coached. But I want you to take a look at what these parents have to say, because it's pretty phenomenal about the testimony of the school and YBGR. Stevens, program therapist here at Independent Elementary School with the YBGR CCT team.
And I am the mother of 3 of the kids that are involved and go to school here at Independent, involved with the YBGR.
And I'm the dad of the...
And I'm Deb Dees, behavior specialist with the YBGR program here at Independent.
So I want to ask you guys a couple of questions.
Sure.
The first one is, how long have you guys had students attending Independent Elementary School?
30 years.
30 years. That's a long time.
And maybe active through all those 30 years, probably 7 years, maybe a break for 4 years, another 7, and then this is our final.
Yeah, for me, it's been 7 years before I met Deb, because she had kids at home, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the children that are attending independent school now, would you share with us how you became to be parents of those children?
They came into my care, actually through kinship care, the foster care program. And they are my great nieces and nephews. And that was back when one of them was 3 years old, one of them was 2 years old, and then I got another one when they were newborn. And I've had them ever since, and then we adopted them in 6 years ago.
Describe, if you can, your experience that you've had throughout the years at Independent.
Oh boy, all really good. I believe that the teachers and administration are extremely, they just care so much about the children. And then in addition to that, they're well educated, well-rounded. They all seem to communicate really good with each other. That's my feeling.
And then another thing that I notice is that they really take a special interest if your child has special needs or they're gifted. One of our kids, our older one, is gifted, for instance, and he got very special attention by the administrator and took a pretty well personal interest in him. I thought it was very cool.
Have you guys noticed a difference in your children since they started working with the YBGR program?
Yes.
Definitely. They are very more communicative than before. They seem to work out their own problems, whereas before we would just see a lot of arguing at home. Whereas when they met with you, with the program, they were put on a soap stand that they had to prove why they felt a certain way and why they did certain things to their siblings, and it really helped them realize that they were responsible for their actions. Oh, very good.
Actually, with all three of them, they now feel very safe at school. Like they have a safe place that they can go to and talk to. They're also coming home with tools that they've learned through your guys' program and teaching us them. And calling us on anything that they don't think is right that we do. So it's been really positive.
Right. And it seems like if there's a crisis, whether it would be at school or whether it would be at home, something that would bother them, they would not hesitate to come and talk with you. And that really helped us at home in knowing that there was somebody they could go to immediately at school and talk to, whether it was somebody fighting on the playground, which has happened, or, maybe a death in the family, which we had. And they were not hesitant in coming to you and talking about it.
Have you guys noticed, and this kind of just tags along with that previous question, a difference in your family dynamics at home?
Absolutely.
Since it's been working?
They all, believe it or not, it is so calm in our house, other than maybe a few basketballs and baseballs going through.
Sure.
But for the most part, they're not fighting anymore, they're not arguing anymore. They go to each other and they resolve it. And once in a blue moon, you'll have them come in now where they'll ask if one of them's not resolving on the other end. But other than that, it's so less stressful.
Yes, that's really cool. Yeah, well, it's very helpful.
Kind of along that same line, have you noticed a change in the environment here at Independent since YBGR came on board?
Yes.
Yes.
Bullying has stopped. We have not had any issues with any bullying. Zachary, of course, was one of the childs that was being bullied, and then he would react to it and then make it even worse. He wasn't acting to it appropriately. You guys have worked with that, and now anytime he picks out, if he sees somebody bullying somebody else, he can recognize it and he knows how to react to it.
Yeah, he's not reactionary, he's proactive. and recognizing it, which is awesome.
And he never says a thing, anything about any kind of bullying whatsoever.
Yeah.
For school, so that I think is good. Totally stopped as far as our kids.
Yeah, definitely.
The school is really good in providing the resources that are needed for the children. And
So that was just a short video testimony of some of the impact that both YBGR as well as Independent Elementary has had within the community from one of the parents. The last part of our presentation is, of course, the top of our tree, which is the MBI and the implementation of MBI by the school. So, that.
One of the reasons that we initiated the move to MBI was basically because we were notified about the law. In order to keep our YBGR team, we had to step it up and be involved. And boy, you know, we looked at, we'll lose the team or we need to do this. Well, what is this MBI thing and how can we get there? And that, to be really honest, was our jump to get there. So we created a team last summer and went to Summer Institute and came back raring to go. These slides right here are part of our beginning of the year intro that the MBI team did with our staff in order to make them aware of, you know, why we were initiating MBI and its connection to keeping our CSCT team. We had found success with them and we wanted it to keep going. And again, it's just in that journey to find other resources that we came upon MBI. Our team met throughout the summer to create the matrix that we're using. To be honest, you know, we didn't recreate the wheel. We found things that we liked from other schools and morphed it together to call it our own. And we just really took off as a group. And what the nicest part about it was, I felt as the new principal, I didn't want to come in. You know, you need to understand also, I was a teacher here for 25 years and then moved into that role. And it was a little tricky, and I was quite aware of whether they would take me in that leadership role first thing off the bat or what. So basically, the MBI team looked at me and said, you know, we've got this. And they, you know, I helped them during the summer, and we planned the PowerPoint out that we were going to show. And first day of school, they took it, and they rocked it, and they sold the idea, and they moved it to where it is today, and we all work together to do that. You know, it just ties in. We've already been an RTI school, and when we tie it in with MBI, it was just the next logical step and that key point of keeping our team.
Mm-hmm. So like Sheila was saying, we fit into that Tier 2, Tier 3 part of the MBI, and I found that this slide, I'm going to go back to it, I found it great because you guys had received this correct when you had gone. Mm-hmm. If I remember back, not necessarily knowing that you were receiving this, so the school is now hanging up, but this is again another testimony to the exemplarness of the school. So we have our RTI and our MBI model here, which I'm sure the majority of you are hopefully familiar with, and how we fit in as a mental health agency responding to those Tier 2 and Tier 3 behavior interventions. These are just some examples from around the school. They have, of course, in every classroom we have the sound check system that's being used. In the different areas of the school, there's different levels, voice levels that are being used as well. And this, again, is just kind of goes along with the universals of MBI. It's pretty phenomenal to see how the school has embraced that and the students have responded to it. These are the three words that were used for the MBI matrix. And once again, tying it back in with what was already being implemented through the use of the tree, the use of the Qualia 8. Began using the MANT system and MANT training here within the school. There are 4 of us that are certified in the hands-on system, but really using the verbal de-escalation and integrating that into what we're already doing. Again, another example of the universals being up in the school. This is in Ms. Chenard's office. This was another poster that was made by collaborative efforts through the YBGR program in the school. This is in the cafeteria, so pride, respect, cooperation. And this is an example of the grid that was developed out of MBI.
The MBI team did not want to put something on staff as another add-on, and so what we wanted to do was emphasize that we do a lot right. Throughout the summer, we actually mailed to the staff for their input what we were thinking about, so they weren't caught blindsided on that first day of school. Everybody was kind of included all through the summer.
Yep. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with this quote. This is really the driving force behind MBI and behind what we're doing as a staff and as a school. I'll let you guys jot that name down. And we're ending. Really, it's all about attitude. It's about attitude here at school amongst students, amongst the staff, that makes what's going on here happen. So thank you for letting us host today, participate in the discussion. We've enjoyed it.
We've worked up to this quite a bit.
Quite
so
a
it's
bit.
kind of a celebration point for us where we can look back and see where we've come and celebrate what we've done. So thank you for allowing us to share with you. If you have any questions about what we do, feel free to contact one of us, and we'd be thrilled to share with you. If you have any other suggestions or great ideas that you do in your school, we'd love to hear about that as well.
We're getting a couple questions here on the feed, more comments, which we appreciate. Thank you.
My
If you
husband had
maybe would like to put, I'm sorry, if you would like to put your email addresses in the chat so people can follow up with you, since we are on the end of this presentation, but we can also stay online for a few more minutes and take a couple more questions.
Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and throw all of our emails in there. So